Hi, and welcome to our next session. Max certainly gave us a lot to think about there related to the guest experience in hotels. And now, as Linda just said, we are going to be talking about the guest experience as it relates to short-term rentals. Our guests for this segment are Madison Rifkin, founder and CEO of Mount. Welcome, Madison.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And hi, and we also have Noelia Novella, co-founder and CEO of Doinn, a housekeeping platform that is also part of something called the Smart Digital Plug, which we will also be talking about. So, Madison, maybe if we can begin with you. Mount is a platform that enables rental hosts to sell amenities as part of the guest experience. So, the host gets some ancillary revenue. The guest ideally gets a more enjoyable stay, I assume. Can you give us an idea of the types of products we're talking about?
Yes. I'd say kind of the creativity is up to the host at that point. So with Mount, we basically created a software platform that can take whatever you already own, whether it be a bike, a golf cart, a scooter, a kayak, a paddleboard, and we turn it into a rentable amenity. So when the guest shows up, they basically have all of these fun toys that they can rent through the app and basically pay for it, handles liability, all of that stuff. That's kind of what we thought the Mount platform was going to be used. But in this industry of creativity and just pushing the boundaries, hosts have been coming to us and asking if they can list their podcast studio, their hot tub. I think the most unique one we had the other day was like a private chef. So we're really kind of trying to push the boundaries, and really whatever that property wants to be able to offer, the theory is that you can use the Mount platform to do it. So it's a lot of creativity out there.
That's interesting. And maybe we'll talk a bit more about some of the future evolution of some of this as it relates to guest experience. And just quickly, would you say the need for this is coming primarily from the hosts who are saying, hey, we could offer this, we could offer that, or from the guests, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both. And what we found in the industry, especially because of COVID, actually, and the way people travel now, is that because they were raised on this hotel where it has all these fancy amenities, and now you're not really staying at a hotel, you're staying at a short-term rental, the mindset didn't change. So the traveler still wants all of these amenities, but the host is having a really hard time offering these because there's no management system right now if you put your golf cart there. And there's also no one taking care of the liability, no one tracking your $20,000 golf cart. So it's a need from both sides. The travelers want it and it's not there. The host wants to be able to offer it, but there's nothing allowing them to do it right now.
Okay, interesting. Noelia, let's talk a bit about what you're doing. So Doinn is a cleaning and laundry platform for short-term rentals. Certainly that's something that is probably more needed than ever, thanks to the pandemic. And your company is also one of 6 startups that have come together under the umbrella of Smart Digital Plug. Some of the others offer registration services, chatbots, shuttle services. Can you just briefly explain the purpose of Smart Digital Plug and why is something like that needed?
Okay, sure. Thank you. Well, we believe in partnerships, and in the same way we have integrated with PMSs as Guesty, Avanti, or channel managers as Rental United. Some companies have integrated our API to have a well-done housekeeping model in a plug-and-play solution, right? Smart Digital Plug is somehow a bundle of products for property operators and very aligned with what Mark Starkov said, is contactless, right? So in fact, yeah, there is a solution for bots, for automated customer services based on artificial intelligence. There are, my way is bringing all the solutions for getting smart locks by inserting a microchip instead of changing the whole locker. In Europe, well, we have the need of sending the information about our guests to the authorities, so they're automated of that process. And we also have in the group Servant Trip, that is offering to guests tours, activities, and transfers, right? So at the end of the day, if someone is reaching me to ask for help with the cleaning, laundry, and linen rental, well, it's not too complicated to ask them if we can help them with something else, right? It's just bringing more value to the users and save time and energy.
Yeah, and am I correct? So your customers are primarily some of the maybe smaller hosts, independent hosts, that sort of thing, that may not be aligned with some of the larger property management companies?
Not really. We actually have more large property managers. Think that right now we are in 600 cities and 10 countries. So more and more we are getting all these property operators that are willing to grow. And when they have the investors in the back putting some pressure, they need to grow as fast as possible. And if you have to create your own team of cleaners from scratch, it will take you maybe 2 or 3 months. Why it will last? Once they got the opportunity of managing a new property in a different city, they can be really making money with that. So yeah, it's just for property owners. Well, it's just we bring different values, right? The bigger is the company, the bigger is the problem we solve. But on the other hand, for property owners, they do not have access to professional cleaning companies because the cleaning companies don't have interest if you don't bring a lot of volume. But with us, we are like a big hub. So they don't mind to work with property owners because at the end they have everything centralized in the operation centers that is our dashboard, right? So, yeah.
And so kind of getting back to our theme then, it sounds to me as though all of this, really what both of you are describing, kind of ties back to providing a quality guest experience. Noelia, maybe if you can just speak to that related to smart digital plugs. So this is sort of about kind of professionalizing and automating some of those services that hosts are needing to provide that guest experience?
At the end of the day, millennial or not, we all grow up with the standards of the hotels, starting from the cleaning part, and that's exactly what we bring. But also what Madison was talking about in terms of amenities, in terms of all kind of technology. So yeah, I mean, this is the direction of the world. Possibly the pandemic accelerated or boosted a little bit all this, but we just don't feel like getting in touch with other people as it used to be. So yeah, everything that turns things digital is more than welcome these days.
Yeah.
More or less. I also sometimes say, ask to the market, ask to the guest. Maybe it's completely different if there is a couple that is 65 years old. Maybe they would like to have an in-person check-in, for example, right? And they are willing to pay 20 euros for having that person introducing them the city and explaining them how it works in the apartment. Yeah, maybe other people doesn't, right? So ask them, give them the choice.
As the rental industry continues to grow and to mature, is this a bit more about consistency across the experience? I guess, Madison, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, because it does seem also that there's a bit of a need for a balance between maybe boosting some of that consistency for the guest experience, but then also the whole kind of beauty of the rental industry has been that it's not that cookie cutter, same in any city kind of thing that you might find with a hotel.
Yeah, I think I'd say consistency is two kind of avenues with the linens and such. I think that's a great idea because showing up and knowing that your property or your stay is going to have a set of linens that isn't flannel, sheets or something like that. That's good to know. But I'd say from our perspective, we're in the industry of having it not be consistent because typically our type of traveler is showing up and wanting that experience. Like they're seeking out mount amenities at properties because they know it's going to be unique to that property, to that location. And it's really getting you into that local culture. I think, for example, I was in Amsterdam and we got to use bikes. That was a pretty unique experience to that destination because everyone there rides bikes.
Right.
So that's the next level Mount is trying to provide is not just that fun toy to rent, but really how can you use that bike or that scooter to then dive into the local culture and cuisine.
But, it's interesting because as I'm thinking about it, while I get that your point about really not being cookie cutter and consistency, would it be fair to say, though, that by what you're offering, it's a more consistent experience for the guests to know I just need to click here or.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in that sense of the word, yeah, we do want consistency in that experience of the rental. And then, a unique experience when you're actually on the amenity. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering, for both of you, would you say what else do rentals need to be doing to compete with hotels and to win over the guests and to provide the experience that the guest is looking for?
Do we need to feel hotels as competitors? I just think rentals are great by themselves and there is no need to compete, right, with something different. But when it is to start out among peers, When we talk about professionalization, it doesn't always mean to share your revenue with a property operator, what can be really good, but more than that, to feel responsible, to constantly improve the service you provide with the best cleaning, the best decoration, the best experience, and sometimes, why not with the best price? Is that what your property is best at, right? And I know that with all these M&A and round of investment, it's pretty tricky. It might be scary for small operators, but we have seen this before in other industries, and local markets don't disappear because they open a Costco in the neighborhood. It's just a matter of adding real value to your users, making an effort in communicating. Sometimes that's the missing part, the lack of communicating, and understanding what makes you better than them. So yeah, it's just that way I would say.
Yeah, Madison, any thoughts on that topic? What else do rentals need to be doing?
I think from a younger traveler trying to capture Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, having that sense of technology where you don't have to show up and go look for the lockbox and find the key, because that's not a great experience. I think the companies we actually work with right now are automating the whole process. So you just click a link, it takes you to a web app. You don't need to download an app, which is nice. And it controls the whole property from the Wi-Fi to the thermostat to renting Mount amenities. Everything is just at a touch of a button. I think that might make it easier for the individual host as well, because you aren't getting peppered with the exact same questions from every guest. But at the same time, you lose some of the local flavor. So I think there's a balance.
Yeah. Well, and some of what you're describing there, Noelia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, that is in effect back to Smart Digital Plug, those types of easy access to the property and chat bots and that type of thing. That's all what potentially then a one-stop shop there for the host to offer, correct?
Yes, exactly. We are digitalizing with all the solutions in with one plug, right?
Yeah. One of the phrases I heard Max say is about the fact that, our guests have changed as, that we're kind of coming out of the pandemic. How do you see traveler needs evolving in the coming years? Any future trends that maybe you see coming down the road, either of you?
Well, you want me to start again? I always understood this industry as prop tech and not travel tech. And I think now it's more clear for everyone, and property buyers are incorporating to their metrics the income stream short-term rental to get the return of their investment. And it actually affects many things, from the amount of money that buyers can afford to pay and the build-to-rent projects that are popping out everywhere. Now, you cross all this with the remote jobs, the will to live and to work from different locations, and the possibilities to co-own a home in basically a few clicks. I think we are just really living a very exciting times, and yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Madison, any thoughts there to add on to that question about future needs and trends?
Yeah, I definitely think one of the biggest trends we're tracking is just the melding of industries. So Mount really started actually in micromobility. We jumped to the Airbnb space, and now we're seeing capabilities within apartments and hostels and all this type of stuff. But it's interesting to see across the globe the melding of apartments with short-term rentals, with longer-term stays, with this nomadic traveler. I think all because of COVID actually really accelerated this. So our bet is that there isn't going to be, verticalized industries for apartments anymore. It's going to be this whole nomad thing for this nomadic traveler where they can work, live for a month, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Come together.
Do you see that this idea of kind of value-added services for the rental experience becoming more commonplace?
I definitely think so, but there's a fine balance, and it's something we're actually starting to notice at Mount, where it's the traveler is paying for their nightly stay, and then because it's Airbnb, getting charged a service fee, a cleaning fee, and this long list of items, and they get frustrated when they show up at the property and then become feeling like they're nickel and dimed, where they have to pay for the scooter, they have to pay for the grill. That's an extreme. So I think there's a fine balance between what you charge the guest for and then what you simply just give them access to. Or do you take the approach where you make it an all-inclusive resort and you just charge them an amenity fee like hotels do? And then they show up and everything is essentially free in their mind.
Is
So
that something, is that something that some of, it is happening with Mount with some of your clients, or is that something you're just exploring?
I'd say something we're exploring. I think with the bigger clients we work with, we have the opportunity to build in that amenity fee. With the smaller hosts, we're trying to figure out how to make that possible. But it definitely depends on property type too. Like there's some properties curated to, a nightly stay of $40. And then at that point, you don't expect everything to be included. So there's a whole spectrum of different properties and hosts out there. You kind of have to cater to all of them.
Maybe if we could talk a bit about, because both Mount and certainly the Smart Digital Plug kind of umbrella service are relatively new, been around just a couple of years, maybe even about a year. Can you talk a bit about Noelia? Maybe can you give us a sense of where things stand with Smart Digital Plug, and how are you and the other startups that are involved with it? How are you marketing it? What are the conversations you're starting to have with hosts about Smart Digital Plug?
Well, it all started during the pandemic when people was willing to learn a lot about cleaning, to learn about how to become digital. So we basically start creating a lot of webinars, but instead of talking just about cleaning or about the smart locks, we were doing like a round table to talk about our products, but also about the way we understood that the work was moving towards with all this pandemic. But yeah, well, nowadays we are different companies that we help each other, that we are always supporting each other and recommending them to our own clients, and that's the way it should be for everyone, not only us, because we created this plug, but I think we believe in partnerships because we just become stronger if we work with other companies. That's the whole thing. And from the user perspective, from the property manager point of view, it's a pain to be getting all this information, all these salespeople trying to convince you about different things. Well, you can have a place to look for all the different solutions you need. That's our whole goal. Yeah.
And is it primarily in Europe right now?
Not really. For example, Stay My Way is working with Accor hotels across the whole world. So, and ourselves, we are in 11 countries. So, yeah.
Okay. And Madison, give us a sense of what's happening with Mount and customers.
We've been live for about a year now. We really took our time with some beta tests and worked with a slew of 14 hosts around the country in the US. And now actually are in the last few weeks of working up towards our actual product launch, where you can go on our website and list an amenity if you're a host. So we're basically opening it up to the world at this point to see what you want to list, as well as rolling out a few key product or I guess partnership integrations, so that if you're working with a PMS, when we go live with them, you'll just get pinged that it's now Mount compatible and you can list amenities that way as well. So definitely gearing up and just, seeing what the hosts want to list. It's pretty exciting.
I'm wondering, I'm thinking back to another point that Max made at the beginning of his remarks about the fact that, in a way, the experience of the traveler adoption and the way they really embraced rentals, particularly early on in the pandemic, kind of starts to make the case that this idea that there has to be a human touch, there has to be human interaction for an enjoyable guest experience is actually maybe not necessarily true in all cases. Would you say, is that a benefit for the rental industry to kind of already be approaching things from a more contactless user experience?
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure.
Yeah. What is beautiful about the vacation rental industry is that we all have this entrepreneur mindset. So we are pretty agile, right? When you think about changing the smart locks, to give you an example of a hotel, the decision makers can take, I don't know, maybe 10 months, right? Well, in a vacation rental is done in seconds. So that agility is helping a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Well, it's all very interesting. We are out of time. Madison and Noelia, thank you so much for helping us understand a bit more about your companies and about the future of the guest experience in rentals. Thanks.